Okay, I'm Rav Netanya. 4 lines to the bottom in the Vilna Shas. You got it? Page 23. 4 lines to the bottom. It's probably about 15 lines into halacha. Amar Mesanya Lola Meina Gdul Mechaperes. Okay, Amar Mesanya Lola Meina Gdul Mechaperes. The greatness, the fact that the Kohen Gadol, wherever it is said that the greatness does not atone. It should be until unless he becomes known to him that he committed a sin when he became already great, elevated in his stature. We said yesterday that the elevation in stature, according to the one opinion, is the reason why the Kohen Mashiach or the Nasi can get out of bringing the carbon they're supposed to bring. It's only if he becomes aware of the chait that he committed prior to his being elevated, after the time that he became elevated. Why? Because obviously the time he became aware is the time which sets his obligation. So he only became aware after he was elevated. That's why he's exempt. And now, if he ate half a gazais before he became the Kohen Gadol or the Nasi, and half his eyes after he became the Kohen Gadol or Nasi, even if it's in one period of forgetfulness, Potter, he's exempt. But it doesn't mean a korban, because they're 2 separate korbanos for the commoner and for the Kohen Gadol or Mashiach or the Nasi, and therefore they don't join together. Okay? Safek, if it's a question, now this is a very interesting and strange halacha. Safek chatzisai shel nismana. He's not sure if he ate a chatzisai of Isser or not, which generates not the chiyuv for regular korban, but the chiyuv for an ashram tali, right? For ashram nismana. The safek chatzisai shel nismana, and he is not sure if he ate another half of gazais or not, or he ate a chatzisai, he's not sure about the same idea. Mishnah nismana after he was elevated. Maybe Hashem Toli. He brings an Hashem Toli, which is shocking. The more immediately asks about this in astonishment. Motzinu Dover Ikara Potter. If the actual thing is Potter, right? If he ate a half his eyes before he became, let's say, the Nasi, and then he became the Nasi, you're exempt, right? And you ate half his eyes, I became the Nasi, you're exempt. So, and Hashem Toli, which we understand to be a spin-off of a regular korban. So in that case, if he ate half his eyes before questionable status before he became a Nasi, and half his eyes afterwards, your rival, it should be weaker than the obligation of somebody who's definitely sinned. If you were saying it's stronger than the obligation of somebody who definitely sinned. How can it be? Right? Again, if you ever find something like this where the primary component is exempt and the questionable component is liable for korban. So I'm going to answer the question with a question. Well, you don't think we find such a thing? I'll tell you such a thing. Now, the case is like this. You ate 2 zeisim, and you didn't know that you ate 2 zeisim of prohibition, right? You then became aware that one of them was a vadai iser, right? You ate zeisim, then sheni amad b'sfeiko. The second one remains the suffix. I should clarify that. You ate 2 zeisim which were both suffix. So they both theoretically, had you not found out about either one of them, one Hashem totally would have sufficed, because we ate it behel emechad, one period of forgetfulness, right? But then you found out about one of them. So now for that one you have to bring a definite chatos, right? You have to bring a definite korban, right? Because once you know for sure you don't bring Hashem totally, you bring a definite chatos. So now, let's say you find out again, subsequently about the second one. So at that point you actually have to bring 2 chatos. Even though originally one Hashem totally would have been sufficient, now you have to bring 2 chatos. So here the ikar was 1, it was heli machas, but would they become separated when they become later on? How so? By the bevad, when you become aware of one. Well, let's see it inside. What am I saying it outside? The second one is the Safek. It should be Yechai v'chatos and an Osham Toli. You have to be a chatos and Osham Toli, and you don't achieve kapara with one over the other, and then afterwards, if you find out that you sin definitely with the second one, you have to bring another chatos as well for that one. So it says the Gemara. That's good. It says, I don't understand. Rabbi Yaakov Derumya, boy, Rabbi Yossi, Yaakov Derumya asked for Rabbi Yossi. I don't understand. Manavshach. Why is that? If chelev or chal, if they were both chelev, and it was ve'elimachas, one korban should atone. And let's say the second was not chelev, but rather was shumon, right? It was regular permitted fat. Then it's not chayiv a korban, right? So no matter what, you should only need one chatos. Never should you need two korbanos. Not a chatos and an osham toli, and certainly not a chatos and a chatos. Because it should always be one korban, no matter what. Since it's heli machas, either one osham toli should suffice, or one chatos should suffice on both of them, or no, that's it. Either one osham toli should suffice, one chatos should suffice. It should never be chatos and osham toli, nor chatos and chatos. Because whatever the second piece of fat is, if it's forbidden fat, it's part of the first korban. If it's permitted fat, it doesn't generate a korban, right? So why are you chayiv a second korban, right? So that's what he says here. And then the next line should really say, Shuman achal ain't tzarech kapara. And if you ate forbidden fat, you shouldn't eat kapara. So I'm Rabbi Yisrael said, you know what? Kol davar shenira love. You really want more caffeine, don't you? I'm Rabbi Yossi, you're not going to fall asleep again tonight. I'm Rabbi Yossi said his 2-year-old brother drinks coffee. He doesn't drink coffee, but the 2-year-old drinks coffee. I'm Rabbi Yossi said, Kol davar shenira lavi asham toli, anything which where you have to bring asham toli at one point. Yiftias speiko kovas lecheto. An interesting thing. It says that the idea suffix somehow actually brings about the chiyuv chatos. So, in other words, we find something here where initially only one asham toli would be required, right? V'speiko chayav. Yeah, but nevertheless, when you have a and Matzil Davar Yikar Potter means where you be chayav a chatos here, because you knew definitely you sinned with both of these pieces of fat, one korban, right? One korban, because it was heli machas, it was one period of forgetfulness, one korban. But since you became aware of them separately, then, and it's even the idea sofik, Umar says here, even the sofik that separates them out. So there's actually a greater stringency involved in the Yedias Sofik there is in the Yedias Vadai. Not stringency, in the severity of the sin, obviously, but stringency in the amount of korbanos you have to bring. Okay?
It's like it breaks up the helam for something.
Right, it breaks it up. The Yedias Sofik breaks up the helam. Even the Yedias Sofik breaks up the helam. Okay? So in any event, what? That beats me. But that's what it says here. Yeah, I don't know. It breaks it up.
The guy remembers.
He knows he's a mesupuk. That's what he knows.
I know, but it's still part. Let's say he knows for sure that he did it first.
Then he's chayav one korban.
Yeah, he's chayav one korban.
It's the distinction between the two that one's I really don't have a good explanation for it. I don't know why it works that way. You ask me why the idea of suffix. It's really what it means is the idea is vada. You see, it's not the idea of suffix breaks it up. It's the idea of suffix versus the idea of vada. the distinction in the level of idea which actually breaks them up. If I know that one of them I definitely had chaylev, and the other one I'm questioning if I had chaylev or not, even though it should work no matter what, because if it is chaylev, the second one, treat part of the first korban. If it's shumon, it doesn't require a korban. Nevertheless, somehow, the dissonance, the distinction between dias sofik and dias vadai, it generates a chiyuv korban.
Degree of the deal.
Right.
The idea something is worse.
I know. That's Gemara's point. No, that's Gemara's point. Gemara's point is idea sofik is worse, even though ideas vadai. What? What?
And then it's not so bad.
Both, yeah, but the Gemara is saying it's worse, right? You're asking it shouldn't be as bad, but it is worse. That's in fact the case, okay? So name it, what? Right, but it's not. That's the irony here, okay? The fact that there's dissonance between one level idea and the other level idea is what makes what makes there to be more chiyuv korban. So let's look back at the case we were talking about before. If you ate a kazayas as a commoner, chatzi kazayas is a commoner, and a chatzi zayas as a melech, so you're exempt if you knew for sure, right? Because they don't join together. But you ate a savi chatzi zayas when you were a commoner, and a savi chatzi zayas once you were elevated to the level of being a king. So then you have to be an Asham Toli. That's what we said before. And we tried to do so. The Gemara asked the question, how could that be? Where do you see the idea of Sofek generates more of a chiyuv korban than the idea of Vadai? So this is more here. I showed you right here. The idea of Sofek generates more of a chiyuv korban than the idea of Vadai. Because here, the fact that you only made a Sofek on the second one, that means they had to bring both the Chatos and Noshim Toli. And even if you find out later on that the second one, you definitely sinned, you have to bring 2 Chatos. Now, the thing is that the Gemara really still hasn't explained, and really doesn't explain to my satisfaction. So what? But the second half is Zayis with the Oshim over there, he ate Lamais at a time when he's exempt from being a korban altogether, right? I mean, it's not exempt when being a korban, right? Sorry, it's exempt from, he no longer shot to a korban of a commoner. So why should he bring an Oshim Toli? So it obviously is can only be going on a nasi. It's going on a nasi who is chayav and osham toli. In other words, the kohen gadol who does never chayav and osham toli because he's only chayav at shigas where he passed it incorrectly. So obviously by him there's no such thing as tzir. Once he's kicked up the ladder, the chatzi zayis he eats afterwards is not joined with the chatzi zayis he ate before. It's only going by a king. And we're saying that by a king, his vadai chiyuv changes from a female animal to a male animal. And therefore the chatzi zayis eaten before does not join the chatzi zayis eaten afterwards. But it's questionable chiyuv, right? The Osham Toli did not change. And therefore we find this case where an Osham Toli is more severe than a regular korban. And the Gemara asks, where's the precedent? Osham Toli is more severe than a regular korban. Here the Gemara gives the answer. I'll show you this precedent. Yediyah Sofek, the distance between Yediyah Sofek and Yediyah Spadai causes it generates more of a korban. So too, the fact that it was Yediyah Sofek, in other words, it was a Sofek by the Nasi before he became a Nasi, and a Sofek by Nasi after he became a Nasi. So it's a Nasi, it does bring an Osham Toli, in contradistinction to a Kohen Mashiach. So therefore the Yediyah Sofek joins together to make a Chiyuv korban. Okay, now, the truth is that the cases are still not similar. Because in the case of the Chatzi Sofek, the Chatzi Zay Sofek before and Chatzi Zay Sofek afterwards, we're going from 0 to 1. Whereas by the two Chakizesim, Behelei Machas, we're going from 1 to 2. So it's still not 100% accurate, but Lamaisa, we see where the suffix elevates from 1 to 2, so we're assuming the idea suffix can make you go from 0 to 1 as well. Okay? Okay, it says more further. That was kid stuff. Now comes the harder stuff. Says Gemara, where am I? All Gazai Tachlon Ismana. I was exaggerating. All Gazai Tachlon Ismana. Yeda Gazai before he became elevated. Ukazai Mishismani, Yeda Gazai after he became elevated. Behelim Echas. Behelim Echad. In one period of forgetfulness. Ein Ochayev Ela Achas. You're only liable to one korban. Which one do you bring? Since we assume you didn't become aware until you became already a what? Right, because you didn't become aware of the first one until after you're elevated. Then you became aware of both. It still goes to be elimechas only chayev the male korban a soyer for a nasi, for a melech, right? Now, kazayis achloni suffix kazayis achloni ismana v'suffix kazayis mishni ismana beli mechad. If it's a suffix kazayis before he became elevated and suffix kazayis after he became elevated, the Gilin Ephraim takes out the next 6 words. It should be chayev shtayim. You're liable to, right? Because the Osham Toluis, here we're talking about the Osham Toli, right? And Osham Toli, so the Gilin Ephraim says you're liable to 2 because it's considered to be. Why is that talking?
It's 1 hell.
No, I goofed. No. The Gilin Ephraim says that. But I goofed in the pshat and the ratio. It's not that the one korban goes for both. This Gemara is going to the assumption you're potter from what happened from before you became the nasi. It's telling about a case where there was taki, even though there was the idea was after he became the idea became after he became a nasi, but since it's a different chiyuv korban, so you're only chayav on the second one, not on the first one. I goofed. You're only chayav on the second one in that case. You're potter. It's not that one korban goes on both. You're potter from a korban on Aveir number 1. The Aveir number 1, which happened, you're exempt on. Because once you're uplifted, whether it's because you're elevated or because we said yesterday the other far there's a difference of korbanos, you're exempt from the korban on the first thing. But by Osham Toli, by Nasi, since a Nasi does have a concept of Osham Toli, and it's the same Osham Toli you bring once you're elevated as from you before you're elevated, so that Chiyuv Osham Toli doesn't lose. But since he was elevated, he can't join them together. So therefore, in that case, he has to bring 2. Okay? Now, it's interesting. This Gemara works out better. The Or Sameach has a long discussion, and he in his Perush here, and then he reneges on that in the Or Sameach and the Sefer. There's a long discussion about whether our sugi is going, which of the 2 reasons our sugi is using. We said 2 reasons yesterday why his korban changes and comes in Nasi. One is because he gets elevated, and L'keim Shal is Gula and Iskaper Lo Korbanosov, all sins are forgiven. The other we said is because of Shinui Korban, right? Because there's a dissonance in the Chiyuv Korban. Before he's a Nasi, he's Chayiv to female, now he's Chayiv to male. So, each one of these segments of the Gemara could be going like either or both Man to Amri, right? Could be going, so I'm not sure which goes like which. But this sounds more like it's a Shinui Korban issue. That he's exempt from, so where is there a Shinui Korban? When he's on a Vadai, because he goes from a Seira to a Sawyer. But there's no Shinui Korban for an Osham Toli. Yet at the same time, it's not the same person, right? Sounds almost like you need both reasons here. So therefore, but by the definite Avera, he only brings one korban, and the korban's on the second Avera. which you committed once you became a gadol. But in terms of the Asham Toli, the same Asham Toli before and after, so he's Chayev 2. Why is it Chayev 2? Chosh Mi Chayev 1 is not the same person anymore. Since he's not the same person, he has to bring 2. Okay? That's the Din of Ephraim is on it. Now the truth is, as I'm saying this out loud, it really doesn't work out so well with the Gemara at the top of the page. Because Gemara at the top of the page said, Safik Achar Chatzi Zayis before he became a Nasi, and Safik Achar Chatzi Zayis after he became a Nasi. They joined together to make one Asham Toli, right? Yet here the Din of Ephraim is learning according to this Girsa that they don't join together to make one Asham Toli. Rather, you have 2 Asham Tolis, right? There, the 2 halves make a whole. Here is saying they're separate. Yeah, but so what? Maybe you remain with the whole. Who says you go up to 2? Just like 2 halves become 1, maybe the 2 become 1 as well. It was Helem Achas. It was Helem Achas. Right? I'm not so sure I agree with the Gilin Ephraim's Girsa now. I think maybe we should do out without the Gilin Ephraim. Sabik Zayis Achulon Ismail, Sabik Zayis Mishishmane, Behelem Echad, and a Chayv Elachas. They talk and join together. B'shnei Elim was Chayv Shtein. I don't know. I'm not so sure I agree with the Gilin Ephraim and Second Blush. Well, any ideas? No, it doesn't. Could argue on top of Gemara. Okay. Let's have it. Okay, let's try the next one. You ate 3 seasons. Now you see why the blotter is so short? If you ate 3, now if you remember, those of you who were in Krisus in the Bavli, Krisus is just as hard. Travis increases the blotter more murderously long, besides being just as hard. Okay. You ate 3 seasons. 3 hours worth. The Sabri Shem Stein, you thought there were only 2. Don't ask me why. You thought there were only 2. Hifish chatos, you set aside a chatos, 1 chatos. Okay? Now, the truth is that there's a very basic machlokes here between the Bavli and Yerushalmi. Most achronim should change the words kid Rabbi Yechanan to kippur. I don't know, Moses. There's so much biach, both change that. Now, in fact, the halacha is in the Bavli says once a korban is sacrificed, you can't tag anything else on it. Let's say you ate with Heli Machas, according to the Bavli, you had Machas 3 kazesim of prohibition, right? Then only afterwards did you find out that you thought you had 2. You thought it was only 2. This case, you thought it was only 2. Then only after you slaughtered the korban, that you found was the 3rd. So according to the Bible, you have to bring a 3rd korban, a 2nd korban, right? The 2 rode on the Elim Achas together, but once you saw the korban, that's it. It's finished. You can't be miskaper. The idea has to precede the kapara. Rabbi Yechon here argues on that. Okay, so Rabbi Yechon holds and again, according to most Achronim, kiper. Rabbi Yechon niskaper miktas achet niskaper kulo. Since you brought a korban on part of this helim, so you atone for the entire helim, right? But Hashem eloksham and niskaper miktas achet lo. No, it's a mistake. Reish Lakish says, Reish Lakish said niskaper miktas achet. Even if you atone for part of sin, lo niskaper kulo doesn't atone for the entire sin, and therefore he has to bring, when he remembers that there was an additional kazais, he has to bring an additional korban. Okay? Says the Gemara. Acha chamish, that's easy enough. Now, acha chamisha zaysim. Nisvadeh, you ate 5 zaysim of chalev. Nisvadeh below besafik kol echad, you became aware of a suffix of each one of them independently, right? V'chakach, and then afterwards, nisvadealo, here it says basin, but that is a major typo. It should be bivadon. Then you found out for sure. Now this really relates back to what we had a few moments ago. In other words, when you knew about the Midiyah Safik, when you knew about the Midiyah Safik for Hashem Toli, you would have had to bring 5 Hashem Tolis. You would have had to bring 5 Hashem Tolis. But when you become the Midiyah's Vadai later, which comes afterwards, it was what you knew about all of them together. So according to that, you would have only had to bring 1 korban. So what idea do we follow in terms of bringing the korbanos? The initial idea, even though what's the word? What? No. Superseded. It was superseded by the second idea. Nevertheless, do I go by the first idea or not? It's Machlokes Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says Yediyah Safik Kovat Lucheto. Shlomo says Yediyah Safik determines, and therefore you have to bring here. Even when you find out about the Vada, you have to bring how many chatos? 5. Yediyah Safik would have made 5 Hashem Tolis. So even the Vada, which is 1 Yediyah, still you have to bring 5 chatos. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ein Yediyah Safik Kovat Lucheto." No, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the fact that the Yediyah's body was 1, and therefore you only have to bring 1 korban in all 5. Right. Right.
That's everybody's focus.
That's right.
No.
That's on the idea. What? On the awareness of the chait.
Not on the actual the hate of eating. Well, Rabbi Yochanan lumps them all together. He's able to lump them together because his focus is not eating the things that you like eating. It's the act of forgetting.
That's cute. That requires more work, but I like that. In other words, one is focusing on the activity, one is focusing on the state of mind. Yeah, but you have to factor in some something to do with the idea as well. You don't think so? Okay, but it's not bad. I like that. Okay, so says Mara, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Moshe Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak said, "Ma'ir Rishim and Lakish." And Lakish concedes the Kohen Mashiach. A Kohen Mashiach who doesn't bring Rosh Toli anyway, right? He's exempt from the Baruch Rosh Toli. So even if it has idea Savik, She'idiyah Spekel Kovat Fucheto, consistently, right? His idea Savik is meaningless. So therefore, even if I am aware there was a question, all 5 of them, since he wouldn't bring Rosh Toli, that when he actually becomes aware of Idiyah's father, he brings 1 korban for all of them. Okay? Ma'atayma, why is that? Kachatas Kasham. Because Paul says, like the Chatas is the Yasham. Eshu maybe Hashem Toli, the guy who brings the Hashem Toli, so his questionable awareness was what determines how many korbanos he has bring on Reish Lakish. Shena maybe Hashem Toli, one who does not bring Hashem Toli, his questionable awareness does nothing to determine how many chatos he should bring. Says Mara Mechav, she tosses into Rabbi Shimon Lakish, I have a contradiction in Reish Lakish, Taman, which in Yerushalmi means what? Here, he says, here he says, a questionable awareness determines how many chatos you have to bring. V'ka, there, in Shavuos, by the second parak, by Tumas Mikdash v'Kadosha. When you enter Beis Mikdash Tameh, you eat Kachim Tameh. So he says, if you became aware of multiple questionable Tumas Mikdash Kadosha, and then became aware of it, that you definitely did it, then you go by how many times definite awarenesses you had. Night is suffix. How come? So it says more very obvious answer. Tamon, here, Hashem Koveh, is the Hashem Toli. Hashem Toli determines, the idea vis-a-vis Hashem determines how many chatos you ultimately have to bring. V'ka, there, in Shavuos, by the Sikdash Tosher, Ma'islach, where's the Hashem Toli? That's why the suffix is meaningless there. Because it's not the idea suffix, but rather it's the idea which can lead to an Hashem Toli. And by Tumas Mikdash v'Kadosha, there is no Hashem Toli. So therefore the suffix plays no role by Tumas Mikdash v'Kadosha. Okay? Says more same question. Rabbi Yochanan. Mechaber shitasi Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan contradicts himself. Tamon here, who Omer, he says. Now it should be according to the Gilin Ephraim. Ein yediyah safek kovas l'chatos. Here he says yediyah safek does not tell you l'sar b'chatos kovas yediyah svadai. V'ka, but over there by Tumas Mikdash Goshav, Amar Achay, he says yediyah safek is sufficient. So it says Mar Rabbi Yochanan. It says Lo Amar Rabbi Yochanan yediyah achroina. Now most Achronim changes to yediyah rishoina. So I'm going to change Yediyah Rishona also. Even the Ephraim who doesn't, he really means Yediyah Rishona, but let me explain what I mean by that. By Tumas Mikdash, unlike all other Kabbalas of the Torah, there's a unique quality in that you need to have Yediyah Tchila Yediyah B'Soif, Be'elim B'Emtza. If you remember correctly, you have to know about your being Talmud, about there being a Beis Hamikdash beforehand. Forget about one of those two, and enter the Beis Hamikdash Kachman Yitzame, and then become aware of it again. So vis-a-vis which Yediyah does Rabbi Yochanan say Yediyah Safek is a valid Yediyah? Only for the year Rishona. In other words, it's sufficient for that Yediyah Rishona, which precedes your entering the Beis Hamikdash Kachim, and it's a unique requirement, not inherited any other prohibition of Torah, only by Tumas Mikdash. For that, sufficient Yediyah Safek. But for the it's not sufficient for Yediyah Safek to break up the number of korbanos you have to bring. If when you get to Yediyah Zvadai, it's all one big Yediyah. Okay, so it's unique over there by Tumas Mikdash Kodashiyot. Yediyah Safek is a valid Yediyah only vis-a-vis that specific aspect of unique Yediyah Rishona, which must precede as unique condition Tumas Mikdash Kodashim in terms of a korban. Okay? Says the Gemara again, Rabbi Yochanan Yediyah Achroina, and again according to most Rishonim, Yediyah Rishona, she'ein ba should be chiyuv korban. It's nothing to do with the chiyuv korban. It's a technical issue as to there has to be a precedent, preceding awareness before you go and defile the Beis Hamikdash. Hakomayim. Now everybody concedes. In the case of the 1, 2, 3, you ate 3 kazesim, but you only know about 2. You separated one korban, then you found about 3, you separated another korban. Hakomayim. Everybody agrees that the only what we said before, you have to separate, specify a new korban on the other one. Rabbi Yochanan said you don't have to. Rish Lakish said you do have to, right? That's only if you already sacrificed this korban. If you already sacrificed korban on 2, Rabbi Yochanan says you don't have to sacrifice the second one on the third. Rish Lakish says you do. What if you didn't yet sacrifice korban number 1? It's still sitting here. So fascinating Gemara. The Gemara says, if the first one's still around, she nidches. You shove it aside and you set aside a new korban. Because it's not a proper korban. Since you set aside a 2 and you really chayav 3. So if it's still alive, if it's already dead, so then Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan have an argument. Did it work for the third one? It didn't work for the third one. You have to bring another one. But if it's still alive, don't use it. Set aside another one, which goes in all 3. Okay, this one we push aside. Maya said, but why do this korban which you have to set aside? Rabbi Yossi says, Tluya b'kapara. It's contingent until it can be used for kapara, meaning you graze it until it gets a mum, you redeem it, use the money to bring another korban in instead of korban ola, korban adama. However, Rabbi Zir said, no. Anytime neither this korban was suitable nor its blood was suitable, meaning that there was no time when it was a proper korban and it wasn't shechted properly. So what we do, since the chatos is, we kill it, we starve it to death, right? A chatos, just like any of the chatos where we can't sacrifice it, we starve it to death. Okay? New case. He ate 5 zaysim v'nodalo, and he became aware about their safek b'speikon, Misha Nismane, after he became, let's say, Melech. And then, here it should say, instead of a based in Mior, it say, Ubrivadon Mishovar. Then he was deposed again. He became aware that he definitely sinned. Okay, so he had 5 Zaysim while he was still commoner. What? Deposed. Yeah, he became Ois King. Okay? Come on. So the case like this. He ate 5 Zaysim before he was coronated. Then he was coronated, became aware of the suffix, Yediyah suffix. Then he was deposed again, right? And then he became aware that it was a Vadai. That's the scenario. So it says Gemara, it's the same as Rosary Shlokish and Rabbi Yochanan. Al-Daiti Rabbi Shimon Lakish, according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Potter, you're exempt. Why are you exempt? Because obviously L'shitoso, Suffolk Yediyah is a valid Yediyah, right? And when does the Suffolk Yediyah take place? It took place when he was a king. So took place, what? No. The Maisa was when he was a commoner. The Suffolk Yediyah when he became a king, and the Vadi Yediyah after he was deposed again. So since he holds Yediyah Suffolk Shmei Yediyah, so therefore, since he became aware of it after he became a king, and at that point he was either Ola Likdula or Shinui Korban, whatever the case is, so he's exempt from being any Korban, right? Even after he's deposed again, and finds out he definitely sinned, doesn't matter, he's exempt from being any Korban. However, he's liable. Why is that? Because Rabbi Yochanan Safik is meaningless. So therefore, what's the first idea which has any impact? The idea after he's dethroned. Oh, after he's dethroned, it goes back to the first chiyuv. Now again, according to my number, it says Ola Gdula. I don't know if this works. Because once he's Ola Gdula, that should have atoned even gets deposed again. But according to my number, Shini Korban, it makes sense, right?
But the other one, just with the
Ola Gdula. No, Sameach? What about it? What do you refer to?
No, what you just said before this.
I deny it. What did I say? Yeah. Okay, you'll have to pass. Since you don't remember it, I'm certainly not going to remind you. Okay, so it says Gemara weiter. Says Gemara, wait a minute. Kedem Rabbi Shimon Lakish Liftor V'lo L'chiyuv. Now the truth is, it's easier if I just change it in Ephraim does. So I can do. If I do the proper inflection, I do with the gears in front of us. In front of us as well. But it says Kedem Rabbi Shimon Lakish L'chiyuv Lo Liftor. Reish Lakish said Yediyah Savik can make you bring more korbanos. Instead of 1, you have to bring 5. Reish Lakish never said you can go down from 5 to 0 based on the Yediyah Safek. In other words, here, Reish Lakish come out to be the Mekel Chatz V'Sholem. Right? He come out to say that he'd be exempt from being any Korban because he became aware of Yediyah Safek when you were still a king. No. We don't like Kulas. Elakini. Rather, this is the way to learn it. He became 5 Zaysim. He's vital mistaken and became aware of the subject, the questionable idea. Ad Shalonis Mane. He became aware of the subject before he became king. Viduya became aware of definite sin. Mishusmana after he was appointed king. Excuse me. I'll die to Rabbi Shimon Lakish. According to Shimon Lakish, the Omar says Yediyah Safek Chovel Chato. Yediyah Safek works. Do Omar Chayiv. He says in this case you're liable. Why? You went up L'Gdula. Your korban changed. But you had Yediyah Safek before that. So in this case you're liable. I'll die to Rabbi Yochanan Omar. Do Omar Korah says Yediyah Safek Kovaso Chato. Says Yediyah Safek doesn't make you set your sin in place. Do Omar Potter Takas in this case became Potter. Why? Because the Yediyah Vadai only occurred after you were uplifted or after your korban changed, and therefore you're exempt. Okay, the next 5 lines are redundant. We had them on top. This is what do you do with the chatas you don't need? So therefore, Sharet Yisrael says, take them out, and we will not hesitate to do so. They're exactly the 5 lines we had on top. About whether the chatas you graze it or whether the chatas dies. Okay, new case. You had to have his eyes before you were appointed, right? Chatzis eyes mishlismana. Have his eyes while you were in your appointment. The chatzis eyes and have his eyes mishavar afterwards. 3 halves, right? This is a cool case. It's tarfim. Now, the truth is, there should heritage so chase gears so lot, but you can just, I'm here going to rely on the inflection, which is, what do I say? Do I say that they do join together, despite the fact that there's a separate chiyuv korban in the middle, right? Because 1 and 3 should join together and the 1 and 3 join together and transcend number 2, which is, aberrant. Or do I say no? 2 divides between 1 and 3. So it says, let's start out from here. The thing is, the actual proof is not coming up till you die. We're going to get sidetracked in the middle. Okay? So be patient. He's got 3 zaysim of chaylev in front of him. 3 forbidden fats, cheeseburger, whatever. All those Rishona, he ate the first one. But notice he didn't become aware that you sinned. Sheni, he ate the second one. Be'alemo sharishon. Why you still forgot about the second one, the first one? Then he became aware of the first one. Before he became aware of the second one. And Shlishi, then you ate the third one. Why you were not aware of the second one? Then he became aware of all 3. So 1 and 2 are joined together, and 2 and 3 are joined together. Okay, initially, right? 1 and 2 are joined together, and 2 and 3 are joined together, but 1 and 3 are disconnected. Because 1 and 2 were echad, right? And then he became aware of 1. Then he did 2 and 3 together before becoming aware of number 2. So therefore 1 and 2 are connected, and 2 and 3 are connected, but 1 and 3 are not connected, right? He has to bring a korban for both the first one, the first kazayis, and the second kazayis. Upater al shlishi, and you're exempt for the third kazayis, right? What?
Why
That's a good question. I forgot. No, these are all holes. These are holes.
I don't get it. Should be 5 to korbanos.
You are. Oh yeah, you are. You live on the first and on the second.
No, I mean, should be 5.
Because second, what are you doing?
You're saying because first and second, then you put on the third.
No, you're not put on the third. You're doing. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to put on the third. I apologize. I meant is that the second includes the third. That's what I meant to say. Halim Echas.
Reminds me of oxygen, a water molecule that has oxygen in the center and 2 hydrogens. Oxygen is in the center, 2 hydrogens are not there.
Hydrogen only connects to one molecule. Hydrogen only has 1 atom, right? Hydrogen only has 1 connection. Okay, Taramada. Okay, anyway, so it says what? Right into Rabbi Lang, we'll be proud of you. It says what? Rabbi Yechon Amar. Now, Rabbi Yechon Rechai B'Sheshem Pato Shisha Amar B'Yosef says Sheni L'Daito Davatoli. The truth is, says Rabbi Yossi, it's up to him about the second one. Rotzim Skapel Rishona, Rotzim Skapel Shlishi. He can either, the second korban can either bring he can yes, the way he learns, he has to be the first and the third, and the second can go along with either one. Because Aaron says he brings the first 2 which he has to bring, which are number 1 and number 2, and 3 goes in with 2. But Yossi says no, he has to bring the poles. he has to bring 1 and 3. And 2 gets, either or. He can pick and choose which one he goes with, but 2 has to go with 1 or with 3. Okay? So Rabbi says 1 and 2. Rabbi says 1 and 3. That's basically the difference. What? I know, it's still 2 korbanos, but you have to question how it works. What? Not good enough for me, right? So it says, the Chavraya give a dimion. Now the Orsamach wants to say the Chavraya argue on Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yochanan. It's a different type of, it's different. But I'd much rather learn the Pnei Moshe that it's a more complicated case, but it's the same idea. In other words, it's not, there's no difference in idea, just the difference in case. Therefore, they draw parallel to a case of 4 half seisim. Okay? You knew they had to make, I told you already, they're making it more complicated. So he ate 1 together with 2, and 2 together with 3, and 3 together with 4. But
how does that work? I didn't understand the first. How could you
he ate 1 and 2 Beli Machas, then became aware of 1. But wasn't yet aware of 2 at the time he ate 3. Then he became aware of 2, but wasn't yet aware of 3 at the time he ate 4. Okay? So each couple works. 1 and 2 are connected, 2 and 3 are connected, 3 and 4 are connected.
This is only according to Yerushalmi.
Why? We're talking about ideas vade. We're not talking about ideas Sofia. Okay? So, maybe carbon echad. If he's smart, he brings 1 carbon. Which carbon? How can you only bring 1?
Because everything is sort of connected.
What?
It's all connected.
How do you get away with only bringing 1? If you brought on 2 or 3, let's say you brought on 2, right? So 2 includes 1 and 3. And 4 is only half as eyes. Right? Okay? Yes, so 4 is only half as eyes. So again, saying he brings 3. 3 includes 2 and 4, and 1 is only half his eyes. But if he's a moron, he's going to bring 2 carbonos. He's going to bring in 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. Okay? See, this is a classic Jewish Gemara. Because you think he wants to be mechaper, but doesn't want to leave that half zayis on without kapara. No, the minimum amount of karbanos we have to bring, we bring. High that half zayis without kapara. So what? Smart people to get out of pain. Okay, some variation of the Spindel principle. Okay, says maybe carbon echad. Be smart, 1 carbon. If he's dumb, be loud, maybe take carbonos, he brings 2 carbonos. How does it work? Maybe al rishon. Actually, this is much more fun than when I was preparing it. Maybe al rishon val hasheni echad. He brings on the number 1 and number 2 1. Val shishavi echad, and 3 and 4 1. That's the dumb way, right? The smart way is skipping the parentheses. See, the Pnei Moshe took this all out. Thank God for the Pnei Moshe. That's why the parentheses are here. If he brings on 1 of the middle ones, he's exempt from bringing on the first and on the 4th, right? No matter what. Okay? Says more Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi says Rabbi Yossi says the same thing with the full zaysim. With full zaysim works like this. Maybe shtei karbanos. There it's 2 or 3, right? Because they're full zaysim. So if it's by full zaysim, it's the case we had before: 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 together, 2 and 3 together.
It's not a desire side of it out.
You can't. It's only joined together. You really can't get out, right? Right? You can't get out. You have to bring out. But if you're smart, when you bring the karbanos, you intend to be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, 2 kazaysim with 1 carbon, right? Okay, but he can't. Maybe Shekhar was, if he's dumb, he doesn't realize he can piggyback then maybe shlosh korbanos brings 3 korbanos. Hechavida, how does it work? Maybe al rishon val sheni echad val shlisher. Oh no! Sorry, my mistake. We're not going back to Rabbi Yosef's case from before, where the case before is talking about 3. Here it's talking about a case where he brings. We're talking about a case where there were 4. Before the case was 3 kazaysim. That was the top of your gimel on base. Now in case of Dalman we're talking about 4 kazaysim. So in 4 kazaysim, if he's smart, he brings 2. If he's dumb, he brings 3. How does that work? Echavida. What's the case? Maybe al rishon val sheni echad. If you want to enjoy the first and second together, val shlishi ravi echad, and the third, fourth together, right? Here, it's the opposite of the case of the Havzaysim. Here, if he's smart, he brings on the end ones. Then he must bring 2. He brings them 1 and 2 together. He brings them 3 and 4 together. If he brings, because they're whole Zaysim here, he has to bring at least 2, right? But if he brings them 1 of the middle ones, then he's dumb. Because he brings them the middle ones, he cut off 1 and 4, and each one needs a separate. Right? If he brings them 2 and 3 together, right?
Why can't you do 1, 2, 3, 4?
What? He can. That's the smart way of doing it. The dumb way of doing it is bring on 2 and 3 together, and then he has to bring on 1 and 4. Okay? So dumb way is because it's Eitim Shleim. Rabbi Yitzchak Shah, all this is still not relevant, the proof that we were supposed to bring from all this, to the case which already we forgot about, which was the case of Chatzi Zayis before he was appointed, half his ice while he was appointed, half his ice after he was already pushed out of office. So Rabbi Yitzchak was still not back to that case yet. Rabbi Yitzchak Shah, Yitzchak cast, Apachilas Parsiim came. Now at first I was staring at this for a long time thinking, what does that do with Persians? Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, so it happened. Right, it is to do with Kitok Kidei Achilas Pras. Now the halacha is in order to be Yetzer Mitzvah or transgress an Aveira, you have to eat a kazayis. It has to be a kazayis, Tok Kidei Achilas Pras. The amount of time it takes to eat, I forget how many Zaysim are in a Pras. Yeah, well, it's a very different opinions. I forget how many Zaysim are in a Pras. So they probably bring it down somewhere around here, but I forget. I think it's 3 or 4. What is it? Any recollection? Yes, sir. Yeah, okay, but Yerushalmi wouldn't necessarily have it spelled right. Okay, so in any event, so what about K'dei Achilas Pras? For example, Ilu Achal Chatzi Zayis B'toch K'dei Pras. You had a Kava Zayis within this K'dei Achilas Pras, the Chatzi Zayis B'toch K'dei Pras, and half a Zayis within this Toch K'dei Achilas Pras, Shema Klumi. Oh no, I skipped. Did I skip? No, I didn't skip. No, I didn't. But I read wrong. Says the Gemara, it says Ksiv. Yeah, no, I did skip. Yeah, I skipped. Rabbi Yitzchak Shah, Afachilas Parsim came, says more Rabbi Yitzchak said, Kol Zeh, Shilted Rabbi Yitzchak, this entire question of Rabbi Yitzchak, Lacy Klum. It's a lousy question, it's a klutz kasha. And it says here, Ksiv. Right, but it should be v'chi. No, it's only this last question. Talk the achilas pras. What does that say? V'chi b'achilas prasim adavar tolui. What does achilas pras have to do with anything? Everything has to do now with talk the achilas pras, but rather has to do here with helemos and idios. Talk the achilas pras is not a factor in our discussion. Says the Gemara. Ilu achal chatzi zayis toch k'dei pras chatzi zayis toch k'dei pras shema klumi. If you ate a chatzi zayis one pras and chatzi zayis another k'dei achilas pras, does it meaningful at all? An avol. Now this avol is really like rather, right? That rather, if you ate, actually. Now I looked at it again. I don't know if it's avol. It could be it's achal. What do you have? What achal? Okay. So I thought it was avol when I was preparing, but it's achal. Achal kama zeisim nekama prasim b'elimecha eino chayev ela achas. Meaning we're talking about the issue we're talking about is not k'dei achilas pras, which is not relevant in our discussion. Because you're right, if you ate a half a size, one achilas pras, another half a size, another achilas pras, you're right, they don't join together. But that's not our issue. Our issue is it doesn't work. Our issue is we ate kazais b'achilas pras, another kazais b'achilas pras, another kazais b'achilas pras, or even many kazais b'achilas pras. Our issue is not the issue of the achilas pras, but it's the issue of helemos. Okay, what's Be'eli Machas and what's not Be'eli Machas. And the truth is, Be'eli Machas is mitzdaret even in the morning and even in the afternoon, right? As long as it's one Helim, right? Even the next day, as long as one Be'eli Machas, right?
If it was from time to
yeah, like this. Gemara that talks about Shabbos, Tinok Shenishpat. All of his Chilul Shabbos from the time he's born to the time he finds out he's Jewish is all Be'eli Machas, right? So there was a question whether Shabbos is mechalik, not mechalik. Don't look at the bottom. But it's certainly it's all considered, could be considered Eli Machas. So it says Rabbanan the Kesarim, the rabbis in Kesarim said the same idea. Instead of asking a question based on Chelev and Ketechilas Pras, Damilu Shabbos, we're bringing another point of reference to the Shabbos, but the same idea. The halacha is on Shabbos you're chayav if you wove 2 threads. Weaving one thread is not enough. What? I'm not sure. I don't know how to weave. But some, I think you weave on an existing weave or something. Anyway, let's take the more in faith because I really couldn't care less with it at this point. So in any event, if you did it, it's a practical question. We don't get involved in practical questions. So what? Yerushalmi was right. So you wove one thread on one garment, another thread another garment. They don't join together, right? This guy with 2 threads in one garment, right? So
we have to writing 2 separate.
Right. Shema klumu, va'ara kama chutim kama b'godim. But if it's several garments, be'eli machad, right, several double threads and several garments be'eli machad, and a chayav elachas only live one. So the whole thing is, go get some paper towels and napkins, please. So the whole thing is based on Helemos, not based on Ketechilas Pras, and not based on how many garments you're weaving, though it's going to be several garments, which might have some chiluk, but Lamaitza vis-a-vis Shabbos, all issues Helim. Okay, be it as it may, let's all after all that is said and done, let's get back to the original issue, which was Havakazais before he became appointed, Havakazais after you appoint, Havakazais after you're done, right? So it says, Ma'arei Bachiv, Korban Beina Svichiv, could be Korban Beina Sayim, Metemar Mitzdarfin. If there's a Chiv Korban in between, how can you possibly say they join together? In other words, the Chiv Korban in the middle changed. So number 1 and number 3 can't join. So the aberration of number 2 in the middle, right? Now,
right, there ends up being no Shinoi Korban anyway, because he remembered by the third one, so by the time he was between the first and the third, there's already no Shinoi Korban.
excuse me?
Remember we said about the Shinoi Korban?
Yeah. Okay,
Why should it be different just because when he had it, if we're only focusing on the latest, why should it be different? Just because when he ate it, he ate the second one, it was when he was king.
Yeah, the thing is here, it's not an issue of Helim. It was all Helim Machas here.
Exactly. So,
but the thing is, even though it's Helim Machas, there's something else which is Mechalik. What's Mechalik over here? In fact, there's a Shini Korban in the middle. In other words, there are...
If it's all one Helim, so then it should be, if he remembered by the time it was the third one, it should still be, there is no Shinoi Korban. Why should there be Shinoi Korban?
Because we're saying like this, in these cases, the 3 or 4 Zaysim or Chatzoi Zaysim, which we're discussing past Almud and a half, we said that Yediyas are Mechalik. Even though it's Helim Machos, Yediyas is Mechalik then. So here too, let the Shini Korban be Mechalik. That's what we're saying. No, it's true, Helim Machos is a Tziluf. but there's something which can break that shiur, which is the ideal, right? Right? So too, let's say the same thing over there here. Says Ma'armei Avuna, says no. Tam and chiyuv b'korban. B'ramhacha shinu korban. I'm drawing a blank. I forget what this means. One second. I think I had it wrong. I think I rubbed me was right and I was wrong. 1 second. The Bachil Carbon is signed up wrong with Starf here. Yeah. Made a mistake. The right way on the being is that it does join together. And then we say it doesn't join together. And I thought that initially the right one I say is that it doesn't join together. That's not true. Initially I want to say it does join together. Because we want to bring the case over here. Excuse me. In the case of 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 can bridge between 1 and 3. And 3 can bridge between 2 and 4, right? So here too, let's say the same thing. To have size in the middle should be able to bridge between 1 and 3. In other words, it's all hele machas. So the half size middle should be able to bridge between 1 and 3. Says Martin, how could that work? How could it be such a comparison? That's ridiculous. Because they're different karbanos, the 2 doesn't bridge between 1 and 3. In the case of the 1, 2, 3, 4, be it Geseisim Shleimim or half Geseisim, the Chiv is all for the same korban. So therefore, 2 can bridge between 1 and 3, 3 can bridge between 2 and 4. But over here, there's no bridge. The korban middle is a totally different korban. So therefore, it's a hefsek. If it's a hefsek, you can't join 1 and 3 together. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Says the Gemara again. So let's say Harei B'chiyuv korban aside. Here's the chiyuv korban between 1 and 3. There's 2, right? And the Tamer Mitzarbiya, nevertheless, we say they're joined together. So to let's say between half number 1 and half number 3 is number 2. They're still joined together. It said Tam chiyuv korban. There's a chiyuv in the korban because of but here's shinu korban, and that interrupts. Okay, that's the end of that. Oh, Gesayis Hatshul Yismanim, but Gesayis Mishin Yismanim. You had Gesayis before you were appointed, and Gesayis after you were appointed, or Gesayis Mishavar, and Gesayis after you were gone. So here it's not whole half Zaysim, but half Zaysim. Here it's not half Zaysim, it's whole Zaysim. Oh, Gesayis Hatshul Yismanim, Gesayis Yishmanim, Gesayis Mishavar. Al Daitun the Chevrayner. Here's a very interesting thing. It's really a summary, the Gemara is saying, about the concept of Shinui Korban. You know, Al Daita, the Chevraya, according to Chevraya, who say, Didanam, they say, Mishum Shagdoila Mechaperes, they say that what breaks number 1 from number 2? The ascent to greatness, right? So that they say, Mechakipra Gedula Rishon, the ascent to greatness atoned for the first Avera. The Chayav Al Sheni, you're liable for the second one, right? Because when you go down, you're going down, it's not mechaper. It's only going up, which is a mechaper, not going down. Ba'al Shlishi, you're liable on the third one as well. Right? Liable number 2, number 3. Al Daiti Rabbi Yossi Duamar Ein Cheta V'Diyosu Shom. According to Rabbi Yossi, who says it's the dissonance between the Chet and his awareness. So according to him, now that you're deposed and you found out about all 3, Al Rishon, on the first one, it should be Al Shlishi. Then if Brian changes the pub, you're liable. Upatzar Al Sheni, you're exempt from the second one. Do you see that? Because he holds that it's the if you look at the Gdula, so you're exempt on number 1, you're chayav on number 2, number 3. But if you look at the Shinoi, so you tap back into number 1, you're just exempt on number 2. That's what you meant to say before? Yeah, this is
Because 1 and 3 are the same carbon. 2 is
right. 2 is different. Right. So now you went back. Now you're in the situation being deposed again. It's like Choyzer V'Niyor. Number 1 comes back. Okay. Okay. So Eda Kazai Sofik Ashim Toli before you became appointed. Sofik Mishlismana is another one after you became appointed, and Safik. Sorry, these are just two. Kazayis before he became appointed, and of Safik, right? Hashem Toli, and Kazayis afterwards. Safik Achloni's Gayer. You forget about the similar case, not the same case, right? You ate a Kazayis. I tried to make this. Oh, did I do it wrong? Sorry. Oh, Kazayis, you ate one Kazayis. You're not sure when you ate it. Did you eat it before? One Kazayis. You're not sure if you ate it before you became. You don't know. They sent a message to you that you became the king, but you don't know if you ate this Kazayis before they appointed you or after they appointed you. Okay? They voted on you in Yerushalmi. At that moment, you're eating a cheeseburger in New York, right? So you know if you ate the cheeseburger before they appointed you or after they appointed you. So if it's before they appointed you, so now you're potter once you became a what? Because you're a l'gdula or shina korban. But if you ate it afterwards, then you are liable, right? So you're mesupah. The same thing, you ate it because don't ask me how this happened. You're being megayer, and in the middle of your guess, I guess in the mikveh, you're eating a cheeseburger, right? So something actually, I don't know exactly what the case is. Right. Something, you don't know if you ate it before, as you're going down, or something just got it as you're coming up. Okay? Now, or a child. Something, I don't know, I really don't understand the scenario. Something got shloivi shtei saros, maybe like getting a bris milah, I don't know. Something got shloivi shtei saros, before you brought the two hairs, something shivi shtei saros, you know, as a cotton or as a gadol, right? You don't have ate the cheeseburger while it's still cotton, or as your hairs are sprouting and you buy as your gadol. Maybe Hashem Toli being Hashem Toli, because that's a classic case of Hashem Toli. You don't know if you can make that bear or not. Safek Kazayis, Achal Safek Kazayis, if you ate Safek Kazayis, you don't know im, here it says Biyom HaKippurim, but the Shayat so changes, you don't really have to change it, but it's better if you change it. Im Achar Yom HaKippurim. If you don't eat after Yom Kippur Achlo, you cut it Yom Kippur Achlo. If you ate it after before Yom Kippur, I guess you were in a place where the Luach was Mesupik, right? So, Safek Kapara Kippur. So in this case, you don't have to bring Hashem Toli. You know why? Because Yom Kippur is Mechaper on any Chiyuv Hashem Toli. What? If you're Chayiv in Hashem Toli, you don't have to, and Yom Kippur passed over, you don't have to bring Hashem Toli afterwards. Okay? So it says the Gemara, you don't know if you ate it before Yom Kippur or afterwards, right? If you ate it before Yom Kippur, you're exempt. Because Yom Kippur is Chayav. If after Yom Kippur, you're Chayav because Yom Kippur was not Mechaper, right? So here, you don't have to bring Hashem Toli. Why is that? Because the way the Shayat so explains it, it's because it is a fake Sveika. Why is it fake Sveika now?
Because of Yom Kippur and the Zerayis.
Okay, because it's Achal Safek Kazayis, right. I missed that point. If you ate a Safek Kazayis, so you don't know if it's a Kazayis, and you don't know if you ate it before Yom Kippur or after Yom Kippur. So it's a fake Sveika, right? So since it's fake Sveika, so therefore, even though it's possible you ate after Yom Kippur, but there's an additional Safek Kazayis, so when it's a double Safek, so then we say don't bring Hashem Toli and it's fake Sveika. Now, in fact, Lamais, it's interesting, the Shayat so points out that that's a Rashi holds increases, but not Tosfos. So this Yerushalmi is going like the Rashi increases, not like Tosfos increases. Okay. That's the next case. Says in Biyom Kippurim Achlo. Yeah, if you don't know, if you ate Yom Kippurim Achlo Kippurim Achlo. Now this case we ate a Kazayis. You don't know if you ate on Yom Kippur or not. So Chavraya, I mean, Savik. No, the same idea. In Yom Kippur, you don't know if it's a Safek Kazayis, you don't, and you eat it on Yom Kippur, right? So here, you don't know if it's ate it on Yom Kippur itself or after Yom Kippur. Again, Chavrai means Safek Kapara Kippur. Same idea. It's fake or Mechaper. Omra Mitanya or Sanya said, it should be according to Shayat so though. Ephraim, Lisa's gears is in front of us, but he has great difficulties. Ein Yom Kippurim mechaper ela al hayadua. In other words, Yom Kippur is only mechaper if you're chayav and also totally, and you're aware of it beforehand. But he changes Safik Kapora to Yom Kippur, and Minei Domim he changes to al hayadua. In other words, Yom Kippur is only mechaper for Noshim totally. If you knew you were chayav and Noshim totally, you didn't get a chance to bring it before Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur passes over you. But if you didn't know until after Yom Kippur was over, you're chayav and Noshim totally, then Yom Kippur was not mechaper for you. That's being Noshim totally. You can wait till next Yom Kippur was mechaper for you, but you need to have your idea beforehand. So he obliterates the previous case in the Gemara. Okay? He says you need to have your idea. To part you from the Oshim Toli, you need your idea. To part you from the Oshim Toli. Okay, that Yom Kippur should be, instead of Oshim Toli, you have to be aware. Okay, now, this next case is a cool case. At least the way the Shara Yisrael changed it. Masisa Messiah Chevraya. The fire Bryce is a raya for the Chevraya that Safek Speikos Mechaper. How so? Now here it's a Shabbos Yom Kippurim, but really doesn't make sense the way it's written in front of here, the way in front of us. Again, Frank does try and do it the way it is, but it's very difficult. The way the Shara Yisrael does it much better. Instead of Shabbos Yom Kippurim is Yom Kippurim Yom Cholofon. Shabbos comes out, Yom Kippur comes out, doesn't matter what day, but the day before is not Shabbos. That's the main thing. Okay? Like today, nowadays, Yom Kippur cannot come out after Shabbos, right? So you did Malacha, Bein, Erev Yom Kippur, Bein Hashmoshos. Okay? Erev Yom Kippur, Bein Hashmoshos, you did Malacha. So no matter what, you shouldn't be Chayav, right? Manavshach. No matter what. Yom Kippur, if it's you did Malacha in Yom Kippur, right? Kippur. And Yom Kippur itself is Mechaper. Why? Because what part of Yom Kippur is Mechaper? Setting aside Motzai Yom Kippur, right? So you did Melacha Erev Yom Kippur, Ben Hashmoshos. So Yom Kippur is Mechaper. It was Yom Kippur. And even if it's a weekday, then you don't need Yom Kippur, right? Then it's Mutter. So in Manavshach, you shouldn't require any kapara, right? Cholu Mutter.
What's his
that's the next case. Yes. And there's more going to discuss that. Okay. So again, so it's Masis B'Sayel Chevraya, Yom Kippur, Yom Chol Lefana, but should be Vasa Malacha Ben Hashmoshos, and Malacha Ben Hashmoshos, you're exempt. No matter what, if the Yom Kippur, Mu Kippur, if it's Yom Kippur, so Yom Kippur tells them Chaper. Chol, if it's a weekday, Mutter. It's not a problem. Now, from this it's a proof to the Chevraya that even if you didn't find out until after Yom Kippur, you're Mechaper. So it's because here it wasn't Noid Allah before Yom Kippur. Right? He doesn't say it has to be Noid before Yom Kippur. On the contrary, it can't be Noid before Yom Kippur because you did the whole Malacha Ben Hashmoshos, right? So by the time Yom Kippur ensued, you didn't know. Yet nevertheless, Yom Kippur is a Chaper, so this is not like Rabbi Tani, who says only if you knew where before Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur is a Chaper. No, here we see you don't need to be aware beforehand. Okay? Says the Gemara further, V'atani v'achal. Says the Gemara, wait a minute, how are you going to learn this case? It says here, saying if you ate, right? If you ate. Now, the way the Gemara assumes that, for some reason which I don't understand, is if you ate chalev, bein hashmoshos erev Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur is mechaper. Right? Ate chalev, bein hashmoshos erev Yom Kippur is mechaper. Who says? Why is Yom Kippur mechaper if you ate chalev, bein hashmoshos erev Yom Kippur? There's no mimanam. I mean, why not chayav Noshim Toli, I should say. Why not chayav Noshim Toli? There is no mimanavshach, right? Because if it's a Safek Chalev and you don't yet know, so then you should not be exempt because it's Yom Kippur, right?
Why? It's Yom Kippur, and it's a Safek if it's Chalev.
Right? still not happy with this Gemara though. The
How is it good from doing the malacha?
yeah, I'm not sure. I see now. I'm not sure I understand it fully. I'll tell you what the Gemara is saying, but I'm not sure I understand it fully now. So it says about Tani Bacha, what about it says he ate? Or maybe it's Rebun Bachilas Heter. No, it's not he ate Chaleb, but he ate Stam on Yom Kippur. No, it's a way of eating on Yom Kippur, that Yom Kippur, no matter what Yom Kippur is Mechaper Imanavshach. Because if it's Yom Kippur, he ate on Yom Kippur, and he committed Aver of Yom Kippur is Mechaper. But if he ate, and if he ate on a weekday, so it's a weekday, it doesn't require a kapara. You know what it is now? I think I got it. I got it now. Chavraya said that it's only time it's mechaper, the only time we don't have to bring in Osham Toli is if it's a speika. It's a speika. If you became chayav in Osham Toli before Yom Kippur, and it's a speika, right? A double suffix, right? If it's just one suffix, right, and it's before Yom Kippur, so then Yom Kippur, they said what?
That's by the field.
Right. Somehow, if it's just one suffix, so then Yom Kippur is not mechaper and Osham Toli. Must be like this. I'm reconstructing it now as we speak. Must be that Yom Kippur works to get you off the hook of an Osham Toli. If either you were aware of the Osham Toli before Yom Kippur, or it's a speika. In other words, even if you weren't aware before Yom Kippur gave you a hook off the hook, but only if it's a speika. So, if the case there for suffix size, suffix not size, and suffix it was before Yom Kippur, suffix after Yom Kippur, so that's a speika, and Yom Kippur lets you off the hook. If the suffix malacha erev Yom Kippur, suffix didn't do malacha erev Yom Kippur, right? So Yom Kippur lets you off the hook for another reason. It's not a speika, but no matter what, I'm still not sure how it works. No, but no matter, if you did the malacha erev Yom Kippur bein hashmashos, why are you off the hook from Osham Toli? No, there's got to be more to it. What? Oh, good point. Very good. Bein hashmashos is a suffix. That's what makes the speika. The suffix bein hashmashos suffix chol. No, but where's the speika? That's one. That is the suffix. Oh, because it's also bein hashmashos.
Yeah, it's the hashmashos.
No, that's still only one suffix. It doesn't say your suffix kazayis and suffix Yom Kippur. But it's just one suffix. It's just one suffix. The suffix bein hashmashos itself. See, now I don't understand what's... See, if I don't have this last Batani, it works out fine. Let's go back and do it quickly again. I think it's going to work out. Says Umara, Chavraya means Im b'yoyim kippurim achlo. Where am I now? Suffix zayis. Let's start from the third line down again. Suffix zayis, many do it. Suffix zayis don't know im b'yom it should be achar yom kippurim achlo in koyim kippurim achlo. Suffix kapar is kippur. It's a suffix you're mechaper, right? In b'yom kippur because speika. In be Yom Kippurim Ochlim, after Yom Kippurim Ochlim, if you ate on Yom Kippur after Yom Kippur, Chavraya says, Safik Kapara Kippur. Chavraya say that too is Safik Kapara as Mechaper. Or Ramitzana says, no, it doesn't work. Lo'elam, and Yom Kippur Mechaper, El Al Yadu, it has to be known before Yom Kippur. Masisim Messiah Chavraya, the following price helps Chavraya. Because it says Yom Kippurim B'Yom Chol L'Fanav, again according to Shad Yisrael. V'asam Locha Ben Hashmashos, Yim Locha Ben Hashmashos. Manavshach, no matter what Yom Kippurim Kippur, Chol L'Mutar, right? So here we see Yom Kippur is Mechaper, even though you weren't aware of it beforehand, right? So far so good. In other words, the Ramtani said no, Yom Kippur is not Mechaper for its own Asham Toli. It's only Mechaper for an Asham Toli which precedes it, right? And you're aware of it. Mara says here, you see, not that way. You see, Asham Toli, which is generated by Yom Kippur, you're exempt. So it says, Marva Tani v'achal. Wait a minute. What about the Bryce which says here? What about the Bar Bryce says if you ate chalev, that you're exempt, right? You ate chalev, your Yom Kippur is mechaper as well, right? What do you do with that Bryce which says if you ate chalev, Yom Kippur is mechaper? So it says, now, again, this is where we got stymied before. What's actually the issue? What's the Gemara asking Vatani Chalev, right? So I think what the Gemara is asking, I'm trying to reconstruct it as we go along, that what the Gemara is asking is perhaps that Asham Toli is exempted by Yom Kippur is not. I still am not sure exactly what he's asking. What does the Pnei Moshe say? What Moshe is asking, I think what he means is that how you know this is a suffix which has to do with Yom Kippur, doesn't have to do with a suffix whether you ate on Yom Kippur or not. Hi, it's so bare about Chalev, and Chalev is nothing to do with Yom Kippur. But I mean, the case is a different case. So what I don't even know what the Gemara is asking. Kotani v'acha doesn't say he ate. Oh, okay, let me learn it like this. I'm just putting a Band-Aid on a tumor right now, but it's late and I want to finish. I know you're getting edgy. V'atani, at least I am. V'atani v'achal, doesn't it say he ate, and it sounds like the issue is eating dafka before Yom Kippur, which sounds like you need Yediyah before Yom Kippur, like Rab Matanya. That's not enough that happened on Yom Kippur, right? And the Yom Kippur then is Mechaper, but rather that happened before Yom Kippur. Says, well, no, that Kufa is a case of Shabbat Yom Kippur the same way. Rabbi Yisrael Bun B'Achilas Heter. That's talking about taka where you ate not a chalev but a permitted substance, and the issue was itself again that issue of whether it's already Yom Kippur or not Yom Kippur. Now, why was I doing to do this line? Because the Shaita so says we erased the whole next Gemara because it's the exact repetition of the previous Gemara all the way from Ochel Chamisha Zeisim till B'Kapora on the next page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines. What? Till Fumkein Rabbi Yossi. Fumkein Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Bun. Okay? And it's not true that Okamar Ochel Chamisha we had already previously tonight. So we don't have to do it again. So therefore, the Gemara just picks up here, the Fumkein Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Havi Olei. That's Rabbi Yossi Rabun. Why did Rabbi Yossi Rabun say the why did Rabbi Yossi Rabun bring down this whole sugya here of Safek Yom? Why did he have this whole sugya of Safek Yom Kippur, Safek Yom Kippur? Now Yom Kippur in connection with Safik Nismana, Safik Lo Nismana, because the same idea where you have a Safik where you did something at the time of Chiyuv, Safik you did something at the time of Ptur, because that's Rabbi Yisrael Rabbeinu is saying that the Safik Achila is Achila where you do it before Yom Kippur began or after Yom Kippur began. Just like all these cases of Safik Nishmana, Safik Lo Nismana, Safik Nisgar Lo Nisgar, so it would have been talking about Chaylev, the Taka would have been difficult. Now, I really should have connected this line to this line, then I would have been able to do it very simply. Let me go back and say it very simply outside. But when it says Vatani Ochal, what the Gemara is saying is that doesn't fit into the whole series of things we were talking about before. Before we're talking about a whole series of things where you did a Maisa and you don't know if you did it at a time of Chiyuv or a time of Ptur, right? But Ochal doesn't seem to be one of that series.
It's a replacement tape for, actually it's not a replacement, it is to cover the gap between TY 741 and TY 742, which is about one line, which starts in Yudal and Beis, goes on to Tesvav Amud Aleph, which I was stumped on when I was giving shiur, and I didn't fully explain it by the time the shiur ended, and then the next day I picked up from later on. So, just that last question is on Daf Yudalim Beis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the bottom. The question that the Gemara asks is V'hatani v'achal. Now, what the Gemara is asking is that we're just speaking about a Safek day before Yom Kippur was Chol, according to Shai Torah's Eretz Yisrael's Gerus, of course, not according to Gilin Ephraim. According to Shai Torah's Eretz Yisrael's Gerus, the day before Yom Kippur was Chol, and then it was Yom Kippur, and was something when he did Malacha between Ben Hashmashos, between the weekday and Yom Kippur. I mean, Manavshach, Yom Kippur's Mechaper, if it's Yom Kippur, and if it was a weekday, there's going to be Mechaper on. So no matter what, he does have to bring an Osham Toli. But then the Mara asks, wait a minute, but V'hatani v'achal, right? There's an issue here of Achila. What's the issue of Achila? Not just the Achila on Yom Kippur, which we had in the previous brayso. That's true. That is an issue. But the Gemara is saying, how are we addressing the issue of Chelev? That sound V'achal seems we learned before. It's talking about an issue of Achilas Chelev. So if the issue of Achilas Chelev, it's not just an issue of Mimanav Shach Yom Kippur was Mechaper. Maybe Taka wasn't Mechaper. Maybe Yom Kippur's not Mechaper because the Chelev was eaten on Yom Kippur and then Yom Kippur's not Mechaper on it. Maybe it's, or at least it's certainly not clear that we're talking just about an Aveir which has to do with Yom Kippur itself. So the Gemara answers, it's like Rabbi Yosef Baribun. We're not talking about the issue of Chelev. You're right. With the issue of Chelev to be an issue, Tak would have a problem. Would have to address the sugya differently. But right now, the whole issue is the Safik Achal before Yom Kippur, Safik Achal after Yom Kippur. Right? So it's similar to the case of Malacha. It's Safik, you did the Malacha before Yom Kippur, Safik on Yom Kippur, but again, the same idea, the Mimanav Shach applies. The Mimanav Shach is, if it's before Yom Kippur, so it was Mutter. If it's on Yom Kippur itself is Mechaper, we eliminate the Chelev issue. The Chelev issue would be a separate issue we'd have to deal with, and we would have to deal with that, as I say, separately. And then skipping the whole next Gemara until Tesvav Amud Aleph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines down. So the 12th line says, because again Shatter says to skip it, so it's Shatter Lefum Kain, Rabbi Yisrael Bun Havi Allah. So in other words, it's going Rabbi Yisrael Bun that we're asking the question of Achila. It's nothing to do with Chelev, which is the question of the Achila brief on Ben Hashmashos, Safik Chol, Safik Yom Kippur. That's the whole issue which is involved.